have any idea what you've done? Look at me!
I'm
sorry doesn't cut it! You could have cost him his life!
Please stop!
Sir, that's enough. Step back.
She shouldn't be on this floor!
I said step back, ma'am. You're all right. Come with me.
I just...
Did you just hit her? The words cut through the stunned silence, but no one moved. The sharp sting of the slap still echoed in the room, bouncing off sterile white walls and hollow hearts. A nurse stood frozen, her cheek flushed, her dignity unshaken. Across from her, the doctor's arrogance wavered for the first time. He had no idea who he'd just struck or what it would cost him. This isn't just about pride. It's about power, prejudice, and the moment it all collapsed. If this pulled, you in? Comment your city below and keep the story alive. The morning sun filtered through the tall glass windows of St. Helene's Medical Center, painting the white corridors with gold. The hospital moved in rhythm, steady, predictable, almost rehearsed. Among the hum of footsteps and beeping monitors walked Amara Lewis, a newly hired nurse whose quiet strength often went unnoticed. Her uniform was crisp, her smile soft, her presence calm, a steady light in the storm of emergencies that defined her daily routine. Amara wasn't just any nurse. She had studied at some of the best institutions, earned top honors, and carried a reputation for compassion that followed her wherever she went. Yet in this hospital, titles didn't always matter. Here, perception was everything, and perception was shaped by color, not character. She knew it. She felt it in the subtle pauses, the sideways glances, the polite but distant greetings that echoed louder than words ever could. Still, she showed up every day, early, prepared, determined. She treated each patient with warmth, even those who flinched when her hand touched theirs. She didn't complain. She believed that actions could change minds, that kindness could silence prejudice. The hospital staff barely knew that Amara wasn't just another face in scrubs. Her last name, Lewis, wasn't just her own. It carried weight in the city. But she kept that truth hidden, wanting to earn respect for her work, not her family name. And then there was Dr. Richard Hale, the senior surgeon whose arrogance was almost as renowned as his skill. To him, nurses were assistants, not equals. And Amara, young, black, and confident, challenged the unspoken hierarchy he thrived on. Their paths had crossed only in passing before, but that morning, an ordinary shift would set their worlds on a collision course neither could undo. In a hospital built to heal, something deeply human was about to break. She came to save lives. He came to protect his pride. Only one would leave with their dignity intact. It started with something small, an oversight on a patient chart, a minor error that any team could correct in minutes. Amara had caught it early that morning. A dosage, miscalculation for an elderly patient scheduled for surgery. She quietly corrected it, logged the change, and informed the surgical team as required by protocol. But when Dr. Richard Hale reviewed the file later, his pride took a hit. He saw the correction not as professionalism, but as a challenge. And, in his world, being challenged by someone like Amara, a nurse, and worse, a black woman, felt like an insult that demanded an answer. The tension grew invisible roots that day. Every instruction he gave her afterward carried an edge, a tone sharpened by ego. He'd accidentally exclude her from briefings, dismiss her notes, double-check her reports in front of others. The air between them thickened with unspoken hostility, each glance a reminder of where power supposedly belonged. But Amara didn't bow. She met every slight with quiet grace. When he cut her off during rounds, she continued documenting. When he raised his voice, she lowered hers, but never her dignity. Her calm seemed to irritate him even more. It was as if her restraint magnified his insecurity. Then came the breaking point. A patient in critical condition was wheeled into the emergency wing, a young boy victim of a car accident. Amid the rush, Amara took control, initiated vitals, stabilized pressure, and coordinated the team while Dr. Hale prepped for surgery. Her composure under pressure drew nods from everyone. everyone except him. When the boy stabilized, Hale barked an order Amara knew was unsafe, an injection the patient's condition couldn't handle. She hesitated, heart pounding, then spoke, firmly but respectfully. "Doctor, his oxygen levels are dropping. We need to reassess before that dose." The room froze. Nurses turned, pretending to stay busy. Hale's face hardened. To him, her words weren't medical insight, they were defiance. His voice thundered across the ward. "You do as I say." But Amara stood her ground, her voice trembling but steady. "I can't risk his life, sir." And that's when it happened. In a single motion, swift, impulsive, cruel, his hand struck her cheek. The sound echoed through the sterile air, louder than the monitors, more audible than the collective gasp that followed. The boy's mother cried out in shock. The other nurses looked away. No one moved. No one spoke. Amara didn't cry. She didn't shout. She simply stood still, her hand slowly lifting to her face, her eyes meeting his. There was no anger, only a quiet, haunting disbelief. Hale realized what he'd done, but the silence held him captive. His authority had devoured his humanity in front of everyone. As security arrived, Amara walked out, her composure intact, her dignity untouchable. She left behind a room that would never forget the sound of that slap. By evening, whispers spread like wildfire through the hospital halls. Who was she? Why hadn't she fought back? And why, after everything, did she leave with her head held high? No one yet knew that the real storm was just beginning. The next morning, the hospital buzzed with uneasy tension. Word had spread, half whispers, half denials. Some said Dr. Hale had lost control. Others claimed Amara provoked him. But no one could ignore the truth that hung like static in the air. Something unforgivable had happened. In his office, Dr. Hale tried to bury it. He had friends on the board, a spotless record, decades of saving lives. To him, this was a momentary lapse, one that could be swept under sterile rugs. He didn't even expect her to return. After all, people, like her, usually disappeared quietly. Their silence the price of survival. But that afternoon, the boardroom doors opened. The staff gathered for an emergency meeting. One Hale assumed was about him leading the new surgical expansion. He straightened his coat, smoothed his expression, and walked in with practiced confidence. Then he froze. At the head of the long mahogany table sat Amara Lewis, her posture regal, her expression unreadable. The same nurse he had struck, now dressed in a tailored suit, flanked by senior executives. Murmurs rippled through the room as realization dawned. Amara's calm voice broke the silence. "Good afternoon, Dr. Hale. I believe we need to discuss conduct within this hospital." The color drained from his face. The hospital owner's daughter. The woman whose hand he'd slapped in arrogance was the one holding his future in hers. The power had shifted, silently, completely, irrevocably. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments. The days that followed changed everything at St. Helene's. The board launched an internal investigation, and for once silence didn't protect the powerful. Statements poured in. Nurses who had once been afraid to speak now found their voices. The slap that had echoed down the sterile halls became a rallying cry for dignity and justice. Dr. Hale was suspended, pending review. His reputation, once untouchable, crumbled under the weight of his own arrogance. And Amara? She didn't demand revenge. She demanded reform. Policies were rewritten, diversity training was mandated, and a new code of conduct was introduced with her signature at the bottom. But beyond the paperwork, something deeper shifted. The same halls that had once watched in silence now carried a new kind of energy, respect. People met her eyes when she walked by. Her skin, once seen as a boundary, became a banner of strength. Amara never wanted recognition for her name or her status. What she wanted, what she fought for, was a world where no one had to hide their worth behind silence. The doctor who saw her color before her character learned, too late, that every act of prejudice reveals more about the one who commits it than the one who endures it. The hospital was healed, not by medicine, but by accountability. And the question remains for us all: how many more must be humiliated before respect becomes instinct, not instruction? Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more powerful, true inspired stories that open eyes and hearts.